training overview. So basically in this session we're going to go about what SAP IDM is about and what can you achieve with it, some of the processes involved and how you can streamline, what are the advantages of IDM, etc. Okay, and then I'm just going to go through some of the other things as well. Right. So obviously you know about the global online trainings. You know, we specialize in all sort of technology. I mean, providing training in all sorts of technologies: SAP, Oracle, SAS, IDM tools, Microsoft tools, web technologies, and integration technologies, etc. So you know, we are quite we provide comprehensive training solutions online and both online and in the corporate terms. So you know, and SAP IDM is one of the latest offering we are doing at global online trainings. Right. Moving on. So okay, my name is Manav. I have a SAP experience about 15 years now. Similar to some of you guys, I started working in the SAP security space, you know, the PFCG, SE01, setting up users, setting up roles, authorizations, granting users access and everything. And then I got into IDM around, what is it, 6-7 years ago. And basically I've been working in the IDM field ever since. So I have extensive experience in the IDM space, so that's including the integrations with HR, integrations with GRC, integrations with AD, complex integrations with other systems, non-SAP systems, SAP systems as well, you know, and wide range of scenarios. So like we've done several different tricky scenarios where IDM, we put in IDM and customize IDM to achieve the end result, which is streamlining the customers or the client's user lifecycle management. So as you probably know already what IDM is used for. IDM is mainly used for setting up users and managing the identities across various systems in the landscape. So my experience is quite extensive in the IDM space, and also SAP security, and also GRC to an extent as well. So I have done GRC, access risk analysis and emergency management, so I do have a fair bit of understanding and expertise in that area as well. And I've been working as a trainer at Global Online Trainings for the last 4 years. You got any questions about my profile or anything?
No, it's clear.
Stuff. So let's start.
Manav, all this years of experience, you had this in India or in Australia, or what's?
Okay, so just to go on that topic, I left India when I was 18, so it was a long time ago. So basically, I've been in Australia ever since, you know. So
okay, that explains it.
So I have actually done my undergrad and my postgrad and everything in Australia. So I have never worked in India. So
okay, me neither.
all right. So so all my professional career, I've been working in Australia. I've done various different projects, etc. You know, so fairly good. And the thing is, you know, IDM is in very good demand at the moment because people are looking at their existing processes and they say, hang on a minute, we need an identity management tool so that we can streamline the user lifecycle management, right? So that's what most companies are actually focused on these days, right? And then we'll go through that in a little while. But I think from what I heard, the market in the US and the Europe regions is quite good, and even to an extent in India as well. Like I have got a few friends who are in the SAP IDM space who are in India working for Wipro or some of the Indian companies, and they are seeing the big demand in SAP IDM. Right. Okay, so we're going to go through to the next slide. So just to go through the course agenda, we're going to go through the introduction of what the identity management is, the role management and workflows which are in IDM, what is the business-driven identity management, the compliant identity management, which is basically going through the SOD checks with integrations with the GRC. How can we report on the identities? How do we manage passwords? And what are the connectivity? Like how can we connect to IDM? What are the integration points, etc. is what we're going to look at. Some of the architecture and identity virtualization. I'm not sure about if you guys know anything about virtualization. And then we will go through that as well at a high level. Mind you, this is all at a high level. Okay, so this is just to give you an overview of what IDM has, you know, in its capability, so that you are familiar with what the IDM can do and what we can offer you as a training provider, and then see if it is the right thing you're looking for or not. You know what I mean? Right. So just moving on, we'll go to. I mean, we want to keep this to 1 hour strictly, so we will go through it quite quickly, and then if you have any questions, we will take that at the end. So write any questions down through any of the slides on a piece of paper or anything, and then we'll go through your questions a bit later on when we have the questions. Right? So
I have one question, like what are the systems that we are going to integrate with and this training sessions?
In training session, we will just use one system, one ABAP system.
Okay, so it's not a HCM system.
Yes, of course, we're going to have a HCM system as well. However, we do the HCM integration, and we will provision that access back to one of the ECC system or one of the IDIS systems.
Okay, are we going to work on the provisioning framework?
Yeah, of course. I mean, we will show you about everything. You know, we will show you about how to set up the configuration. You know, I mean, obviously, we're not going to go through the installation. I have to speak to Ganesh about if we're going to discuss about or do a topic on installation and the post-installation steps. If we do, then we will cover that, and then also once we do the post-installation steps, what are some of the things we do in terms of setting up IDM. So, and this is all different from client to client. You know, every client has got a different process, and then we will have to cater IDM to that particular process, right? And then, what is it? The thing is, what you guys need to understand is, configuring IDM is not a big deal. You know, you guys are working in the technology space already. You know, and Abdul, you're working in the basis space. You have lots of experience in doing installs and things like that. It will be it's not that hard. But what's hard is actually defining the process. Okay, how does your identity?
I'm not asking the technical point of view, but my question was like the functionally how we are going to integrate that. That's what is my question. Not the technical setting up the repository. No. We already did that. We already deployed the RDS, and I'm very familiar with the RDS and a little bit of integration with Active Directory, HR systems. Some of the stuff I'm aware of. So
yes, I mean that's good. So what we're going to cover in this course is actually the functional side for every single integration, right? And then also we're going to do the technical part as well, where you're going to get your hands on to play with the system and then try to do that yourself.
Manu, would you also talk about the implementation methodologies or any use cases that you came across during your implementation?
Yes, of course. I mean, we're going to go through the full implementation life cycle. And then also some of the hotspots in terms of the issues which could occur and how to resolve them as well.
Okay.
All right. So moving on. So guys, keep your questions till the later. So at the end, we will answer all your questions. Okay, write it down on a piece of paper. Until then. So let's look at this particular slide. This is very interesting and how the SAP security portfolio is categorized as. So here you have, can you see my cursor moving around?
Yeah.
Okay, so we have the IT security application. In there we have the identity and access management, and you can relate it to the SAP security in general. This is actually categorized into 3 areas. So one is the identity and access management. You have your core vulnerabilities and a threat management. You know, these 2 areas we don't really worry about. Okay, we're not concerned about this area. That's more towards the SAP security architects and your security managers, right? So what we are in the space, in the security, SAP security, and also the identity management space is what we're interested in. So all these things, okay? So this box here. So this box is what we're after, okay? So in here, what we are doing is the identity management is also is subclassified into identity governance and administration, and then authentication and single sign-on. So obviously, setting up access is one thing, and making sure that that access which has been provided is compliant, right? And once we all set up this access, how is the user going to use the systems, and what is the authentication process is another. And Abdul, you would have experience in setting up single sign-on via SNC,
Yeah.
or via portal or something like that.
Yeah. We did that. Yeah.
Okay. So in terms of the identity governance and administration, we have the managed identity lifecycle, which is basically high to retire process, changing access when people change their positions from, say, one position to another. They might need additional access based on, some new requirements in their role. All right. So we need to manage those identity management lifecycle. And using identity management, we can do that fully automated. Okay. We need to make sure the access granted doesn't have any segregation of duty. Do you guys know what segregation of duties are? I think, Babu, you might have some experience in this area. So, people have access to 2 conflicting transactions that could potentially cause fraud. Okay? So you have access to raise a purchase order, and then you also have the access to receive the goods, right? So with that access, you could cause a lot of fraud. Okay? So we need to monitor the SODs and then make sure they then, either remediated or mitigated. So, either we take the access away from the users, or if there's a business requirement for the users to have this access, then what we'll do is we will mitigate it in terms of we will put some controls around particular risk or SOD. Okay? Emergency access is basically giving elevated access to some of the business users, and also mainly in the IT. I'm not sure if you heard of the SAP Emergency Access Management, otherwise known as Firefighter. That comes under this particular emergency access umbrella. Then we have your role management, whether it's technical roles, which is you created in the PFCG, or you have your business role model in GRC, or business role model in SAP IDM. And then also we're talking about reporting. It's always important to report on user, and previously we used to use SUIM a lot in the traditional space. I mean, even now we still do. And then what we do is we, giving information to our auditors on what access people have, information to our financial controller on what people can do with a certain transaction and everything else. So that's all covered in here. So these 2 are again subcategorized, and then these 2 can be achieved using the SAP IDM and the SAP GRC access control, right? Then we have the single sign-on side of things, secure SNC, and then the central access policy, two-factor authentication, and these are all managed using the SAP single sign-on, NetWeaver single sign-on, NetWeaver SSO. You can actually get that in fairly easily. You can deploy the single sign-on, and you got your SAP Cloud identity as well. So now what we're doing is we are going in this area here. All right, we're narrowing it down to this area. In this area, we're going to focus mainly on the identity management side of things. We're going to talk about the managing identity lifecycle, and we're going to talk about the integration with IDM GRC. We're not going to talk about the emergency management. We're going to talk about the role management and reporting. Okay. So what are the key capabilities of SAP IDM is what we're going to look at from a holistic approach point of view, right? So basically what SAP IDM does is you can actually provision access to, you know, the right system, the right access to the right system at the right time, okay? And then we're going to go through one of the some of the slides a bit later on, and then you will understand what I'm talking about. Right. And then across all systems and applications, you know, all SAP IDM can provision to all ABAP systems and all SAP Java systems. So there's ABAP stack and the Java stack, and you want users set up in there, SAP IDM can do that. Right? SAP IDM can do setup of users in AD. Right? And there's several other connectors we could use to set up users in those systems. And if you, for whatever reason, if SAP doesn't have the capability in this to administer a certain system, you can actually write a custom connector yourself, provided you have extensive Java experience. You can write a custom connector. Then you have basically consistent with the user's roles and privileges, so all access is managed within SAP IDM, and making sure this access is fully compliant. One, using the execution of the business process, and also secondly, using the SOD check via GRC. So some of the business drivers for IDM, right? So why is IDM so important? You know, why do we need this in our landscape, in the SAP landscape, or in our company? Is some of these some of the you know, advantages of having SAP IDM. Operational costs. You know, I'm not sure about you guys. Traditionally, back in the day when I was working at one of the companies 10 years ago, they were still manually setting up users in SU01, right? So if a user wants access in ECC, you will go to SU01, create, assign all the access, save, okay? And then the same user wants access to basically BW, CRM, Solman, you know, what else, SRM, and several other systems, and also the enterprise portal. And then what you have to do, you have to manually go into every single system and set up the access, right? Then what they did was I say, you know what, this is actually quite labor intensive, let's do something else. Then they brought in CUA. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with CUA. Right? So CUA is connected to some of these systems, and basically it's an ABAP system as well. It's connected to other ABAP systems, and you pull in all the roles, and then you assign all those roles in one system. So instead of creating users in multiple systems, you're creating users in one system, which will then flow through to the. But you know, you see where it had its own issues where, like, you know, it wouldn't provision access correctly to the underlying systems, etc. And then basically, you know, it wouldn't work very well. So a multiple source of identity data, you know, people are raising, you know, like when you set up these users in various different systems, you know, one system you create the user ID as Bob J, and the other system you create the user ID as J Bob, you know, and the other system you create the user ID as Bob Jane. Okay, so this same user has multiple different account names. Okay, so that's a big issue from a compliance point of view. So no one knows what it is. So because of this issue, users had multiple accounts in the same system, right? Manual user provisioning I talked about, labor intensive, so a user is being set up multiple times in multiple systems. Obviously it is. And manual user reset, password reset. I'm sure you guys are still manually doing these password resets in your systems if you haven't, say, enabled your single sign-on for all the systems, right? So which should be, in this day and age, we shouldn't process anything manually, right? Transactions involve multiple enterprises. Basically, the thing is, with this particular IDM piece, you have to make sure that this is not just used for your users, but your customers, your vendors, and all those things. You can make sure that this is actually can be integrated with your vendor process, your customer process. And we have worked on a big project recently where we've set up IDM and customized IDM to manage more than 2 million users. Okay, 1.5 to 2 million users, right? So these are not users who work in the company, they're customers of this company, right? So we are setting up access in SS01 for these users, right? So that they can log into the customer portal and then look at their bills and look at their, change their address, change their credit card details, etc., using SAP IDM. All right. One of the big drivers here is basically the inability to deprovision user access of rights on termination. This is very important because, traditional sense, we are setting up users and then a request comes in from HR and says delete all access. And you delete the AD account and, or disable the AD account and then add some of the other systems. But are you doing it rightly is question. And then there's several cases where people have been left with their access still intact even after the termination, so that users could actually log in and try to, force themselves into the system and potentially cause fraudulent activity. Okay. No complete audit trail available for some of these users on what they're doing and what access they've been granted. I mean, you can tell using SUIM change documents. However, it's not comprehensive from a, if you had given access in AD, no one can tell you when this user was granted access to a certain group, for example. All right. Prevention of unauthorized access in multiple enterprise environments. So basically, we would work on a business role model in IDM, and then you are granted whatever access which is relevant for your role, right? And then if you need any particular access, you will have to request it on the side, and then it will then get approved, will assign, and then that will be then provisioned to your underlying systems. So let's look at this particular slide. It's very important. You need to know the identity lifecycle. So identity lifecycle is basically a user starts in a position, okay, gets in the position, then when they're going to, they can fill in for someone else, they need some additional access, then they resign, they leave the company. When they get promotion, they get some new access, and the old access is taken away, and when they resign, their access is completely removed. So you need to make sure you understand the hire to retire process. This is hire to retire, so hiring to retiring. So, traditional sense, and this is where IDM kind of has an edge in the automated world. Because when a user is set up on the HR side, the company hires this person and they come on board, and what is the first thing you have to do in your job? They have to request for the access, right? And then there's basically the whole process is so convoluted, no one knows the exact process. Because I have experience where I had to basically give access to the users, and then users would come join the company, and what they do is they would fill out some form. So they don't know what to fill out in the form because the form doesn't make sense to them, right? They don't know what access they need to select in the form. So what would they say? They would say, okay, listen, I need the same access as my manager or my colleague, James Smith, right? So basically, then we are chasing up user. James Smith might do a different job than Bob J. Okay, so we are giving incorrect access from the get-go, right? So then what happens is we'll have to fetch the approvals, and this is all taking a month, for example, right? And in this time, what is the user doing? Nothing, right? They're not doing any work because they don't have access. And sometimes what happens is basically this, so by the user not doing any work, the company is losing money, right? You're paying this person not to do anything. So in IDM sense, this is all streamlined. So when a user joins, access is already granted, they can hit the ground running day one. Okay. And then also one more issue here is, they're waiting for a month, they don't have access. What are they doing? They're using someone else's account, right? So Bob J says, listen, hey, James, can I borrow your account? Because I got my access is not granted. So, oh yeah, no worries, take it, right? So this guy, Bob, is logging as James and then trying to do the work. And then if Bob causes any fraudulent activity, who's in trouble? James is, right? So you got to make sure these sort of things don't happen, because this is all against the compliance. Okay. And new position, you change the position to a new position from this position to go to a new position. So Bob joined as an assistant accountant, then he goes on to accountant, for example. So all his assistant accountant access is removed and the accountant access is granted. Bob says, okay, listen, you know what? I need to be granted to, James is going on leave. I need to grant that access for a month. So what we do is we will give that access for just Bob, in terms of, okay, if he does some financial reporting, we'll get the financial reporting access. And when Bob gets promoted and then goes into the financial controller role, for example, and all his access is removed, and then he only gets the financial control access. When Bob resigns, all his access is removed and all his accounts are completely deleted. Okay? Or in some companies, they don't like to delete their accounts, they will disable it. Okay? So either or is fine. So how IDM works in a nutshell. So basically you have your identity management system, which is integrated with SAP HCM or SuccessFactors if you're doing a HR integration. Some companies do integrations with other HR systems, like I have seen where they have integrated with PeopleSoft. So PeopleSoft is integrated with IDM, and IDM will then provision the access to the underlying systems, right? IDM in a nutshell is basically central management of identities throughout the system landscape. It's all rule-based, so we are looking for HR triggers, and based on the HR master data, we will put some logic into IDM where it is acting a certain way for a certain user and another for another user. Okay. So extensive audit trail, logging, and reporting functionality, governance through centralized and auditable identity data, which you can report on. Compliance, you can achieve it through the integration with SAP GRC access control, which has been talking about. And then you can actually, with the access control side of things, you can actually try to mitigate the risks. the segregation of duty conflicts before you grant access. And then we will look at it in a deeper flow a bit later on, okay, so that you'll understand. So here you have your SAP IDM, you got your GRC, and then this is provisioning to all the systems, so SAP HCM, HCM, SCM, HCM, ERP, Java, Portal, SuccessFactors. Then in here, the non-SAP systems, you're doing the database, you got your OS, like you can do like Sun systems, you can do provisioning to web apps and Active Directories, Lotus Nodes, several other systems. And then in this suite, some of the latest technologies are not included, like you can provision to SAP HANA, things like that. All right, so this is how the traditional sense works in the holistic approach. Compliant user lifecycle management in IDM is basically you are onboarding the users here on SuccessFactors or HCM. Then that is integrated with your SAP IDM, right? And once that happens, what happens is there's an integration with GRC where it does the compliance check and make sure the access the user is getting is compliant, right? If it's not compliant, if there's some risks involved, the manager of the risk say, I'm happy for this risk to be mitigated, then it will come through to IDM, and IDM will then provide the access to the underlying systems. Fairly easy what we've been talking about. Okay, and I got a same diagram, and I will explain that a bit later and how it works. So the role management workflow side of things are very important to know. So what are the roles means, in IDM? So IDM works on a business role concept, So what it is you got your technical roles and you got your business roles. And you guys have worked in the SAP security, you know what a technical role is. A technical role is basically a PFCG role, right? And a business role is similar to a composite role, right? So a composite role has one or more technical roles underneath it in a SAP side of things, right? So, but business role is a little bit more different because it is similar to a composite role in SAP, but this business role, because let me go back a step. A composite role can only hold the privileges from the same system. Okay, so if you have a composite role in the ECC system, it could have all the technical roles which are part of that from the same system, right? So if you got a composite role A, B, C, and then you got all the sub roles which are under the composite roles. So instead of assigning 10 roles to a user, you assign one role to a user, where the 10 roles are inherited by the composite role, right? So basically, because of that, it is a little bit easier for user management. However, then the advantage of business role is you can actually incorporate all these technical roles from ECC, all the technical roles from BW, all the technical roles from CRM, all the technical roles from AD, all the technical roles from Portal, and everything else, right? And that's how we set up the business roles. So basically, you have your manager role. For example, you have your manager, and then manager has got a manager role, manager technical role in the do the managerial stuff in ESS or MSS, and then his role is accounting. So he's an accounting person. So all the accounting relevant access. So he's getting all those underlying privilege to post GLs and opening close periods and whatever his responsibilities are, right? Then he has access to some of the other systems like Active Directory. He's got his email, he's got his portal role where he gets access to the ESS where he can do his own ESS stuff, and then also the MSS tab where he does the MSS stuff. Okay? Any questions? I just want to know that you guys are there.
Yeah.
Hello? Yeah, you guys are listening, right? So just wanted to check. Right. So basically, you read the system access information roles, authorization groups from the target systems, which are the underlying backend systems. Then you build a business role model based on what the user needs. Okay, and this one, the thing is, you have to keep it as simple as possible. Because we have done implementations where the new target state is actually more complex than the old version. Okay, the legacy state. So you need to make sure that it's all in it's actually simplifying the business process, not complicating it, right? So then you develop rules for the rule assignments. How do we assign? Say, for example, this accounting person start, right? How do we assign this accounting specific role, right? What are the triggers? What do we do, right? Where's the HR master data we use from? And how do we assign the manager role? Okay, what are the triggers for that? So we're going to go through all of that. And provisioning of the roles, through approval requests and manually. You can do manually. You can go into the IDM UI and start assigning access to the users as well, provided it's all approved. And then automatically, of course, via the HR-driven process, which is what we are looking at in the previous slide. Okay, this is the context-based business role management, reducing complexity. So what this means is, you have your business roles. So you have 20 roles in 1,000 factories, and basically you're creating 20,000 roles, right? So what you do is, I'm not sure if you guys know about the child and derived roles. Yeah, so it's similar to that. So this is mainly for the plant-related roles. So a company has several different locations where they operate on the different org levels, and then we have to only grant access to those particular roles for those employees working on various different plants. And then we have to make sure we build a business roles based on that particular area. Okay, so if a user is working in Perth, we give access to the Perth relevant access. If the work uses Sydney, if the worker is working in Sydney, we give Sydney relevant access. Okay. So there is a workflow aspect in SAP IDM as well. So how it works is, so a user, we can actually enable this where user can actually request the access, goes into the processing where it fetches the approval from the approver or a role approver. Once the role is approved, then the provisioning kicks in and assigns the access to the underlying systems. Okay, and then sends a notification to the user saying your request is being completed. So business-driven identity management. So integrations with SAP business applications. So as you probably see, SAP IDM can integrate with all these underlying systems where you have your success factors, you got your ECC, you got your HCM, you got your CRM, SRM, you got your transport management, you got your BI, SAP HANA, all these business applications, right? So all these integrations are possible, and then how to make it possible is what we're going to look at in the course. So you got your business process identity management onboarding. So this is basically, we have talked about this in one of the previous slides, but we will cover it again. So Kim Perkins joins the company as a marketing specialist. So phase one is Kim gets hired. Then what happens is they will put this Kim's information into HR, and then HR, and also, you could do HR or success factors. Success factors you can only integrate it with IDM 8, not 7.2. So, it's depending on the system, they're onboarded onto this particular HR system on that particular date, on the date Kim starts. a HCM pushes this user into IDM, and based on the job, which is set as marketing specialist, it looks for the business role marketing specialist, assigns that business role, and then gets approval from the manager of the user. And this is this is optional. You know, this step, getting Kim's manager to approve again, is not required, because you know Kim's manager might have approved this access as a part of the onboarding process, right? So it's not required, but however, you can actually incorporate this step into this area.
Yeah, hi, sorry to interrupt here. Can we automate if any employee is getting hired based on the position? If ID will get created automatically, and certain business roles will be assigned based on his position.
Yes, we can definitely do that, but we will save that question till later. But yes, we can definitely do. We can definitely done that, and then I have done it in several of my implementations as well. So and so once the Kim's manager approves, then all the access is automated. So all the access is provisioned to the underlying systems. So his employees created in the HCM, ECC, CRM, portal, so they have access to all the relevant systems. Okay, and then now with the new, because you know why, you probably know SAP portal is getting decommissioned, or it's at the end of its life, and all the things are going on to Fiori and the new platforms, right? So, but Fiori works in a different way, but the authorizations you have to, there's a S_service roles authorization where you have to assign the relevant Fiori tile, and then you will get that access. And then we have done that as well as a part of our work. So this is basically Kim after 2 years as a marketing specialist has got promoted to the marketing manager, right? And then so basically Kim's manager submits all the details to the HR, and then they change the position in HR. Okay, so they're changing the position from marketing specialist to marketing manager, and comes into IDM, removes the marketing specialist role, and assigns the marketing manager role. And so basically the IDMs and then removes all the marketing specialist relevant roles and assigns the marketing manager relevant roles. Okay. And Kim decides to leave the company, and basically all the paperwork submitted again. I mean, this happens a month in advance, or 2 weeks in advance. So they will set up, okay, on this day, Kim is going to leave the company in the HR system, and that on that day, SAP pushes that information into IDM. Then basically the account's disabled or deleted. And then once the user's access is deleted in IDM or disabled in IDM, all the underlying systems, the access is removed and deleted or disabled. Okay, so we're going to look at the compliant identity management a bit in detail. So what are some of the capabilities of IDM in terms of the compliant information? So this is basically showcasing the integration between SAP IDM and also the SAP GRC. So what happens is, okay, we use a request. Say for example, we go back to Kim, and Kim got some marketing access and marketing specialist access, and then she goes and decides to request some access to some sales, right? And then some sales access, and it comes into here, and then goes and checks with SAP GRC access control, the risk analysis there, and say, you know what, Kim, you can't really have this access because you have this access which is conflicting with this access in sales, okay, which could enable you to cause some fraudulent activity. And that basically goes on to the control owner, and if the control owner says, you know what, this is actually not bad, I'm happy with this to be granted to Kim. So he would approve it, then it would come into IDM, and then IDM would then provision that access to Kim, the sales access.
Hi Manoj, I have a question here. In IDM, does it perform risk analysis at action level or permission level?
IDM doesn't perform the risk analysis. It only sends the request to GRC, and GRC is the one who performs the risk analysis at both permission and action level.
Okay, will it happen both at a time, or do we need to have to do some kind of settings in IDM?
No, we don't do any settings on IDM. It's a setting in GRC itself. It's like a standard check, you know. It's a standard risk analysis check. That's what it will do. Okay, so it does that. Then, you know, integrations. So that's how this particular piece works. It's just basically, this is basically controlling the risks in the access provided. So this is the process. So basically, as I just spoke to about, I know user request to access in IDM. IDM then sends a request to with this information, all the requested access. You could have the manager approval as a part of the workflow in in IDM. Then it will send a request to the risk analysis, does the risk analysis, sends it to the risk manager, gets approved, gives back the risk status to IDM. IDM then creates the access and notifies the user or the manager, and the manager. Okay?
Manu, I have one more query here. Sorry to interrupt. Here in IDM, the HR data will flow to IDM. So for the same employee, the manager's data also will be updated in IDM, or that needs to be done manually?
Yeah, of course. So as a part of the HR integration, all the relevant information for that particular user will be transferred to IDM from HCM. And IDM will have that manager information.
Okay. So the moment ID is getting created, the manager data will be updated automatically, and the approval flow will trigger to the manager as per the HR.
That's correct. I mean, we see it only is in the relevant, you know, like only in the relevant cases, you know, in the use case. If the use case has, you know, okay, listen, we need to get approval like this. Like I have implemented some solutions where there's no manager approval. Manager is approved the access even before getting to the IDM. Okay, so there's no approval again. But some company says, you know what, we want the manager to approve this access again to satisfy the internal control or internal audit, you know, or the ITGC within the company, etc. So it all depends. But like from a HCM point of view, there shouldn't be any approvals. But however, if the user is requesting access after HCM, so for example, as I said, Kim was assigned the marketing specialist access, and she needed the sales access. And here, imagine Kim going here, then applying for the sales access. Then you would need manager approval, and that's where the manager approval comes in place. Okay, because which is compliant.
Yeah, I agree. The moment Kim is hired in HR, so he should have some default access like AD or portal, or maybe some default business.
That's correct. Yes.
So for in that case, as per HR master data, manager
yes.
data.
So once
IDM.
That's correct. And every time the user's HR master data is changing, IDM is getting synced with that particular information. So if the manager of this employee Kim changes, it will get reflected here as well. Okay.
And how about for contractual employees? Is it the same scenario?
It all
Because
depends on, it all depends on how they're set up on the HR side of things. Sometimes they might not have a manager. They might report to one manager, and then we will have to cater for that particular solution. So if in our workflow, if the user doesn't have a manager, then we would have some other fallback where we forward the approval to someone else, to check, etc.
okay, it can be automated for both the employee data resides in HR master and also out of HR master.
Yep. Yep.
Okay, that's great.
Okay, so this is basically a new hire form, calculates entitlements based on the position, does the compliance check, remediation, etc., approves assignments, and assigns to the thing. This is basically the GRC integration which I talked about. Okay, previously, and then also in the beginning of the presentation. So some of the reporting capabilities available in IDM. So you have some reports you can generate within IDM. You can create queries at the database level. Okay, and then basically this is the most followed practice. So basically, as IDM administrators, you get access to the database, and then you're writing queries in the database to report on the users. Okay, and you need to make sure that you're using some no lock and things like that, so that you're not locking users by running these queries. And you need to make sure that you don't run extensive queries, so that you crash the database and the application doesn't have connectivity with the database. You can also have some extended reporting with the business warehouse, so you have to integrate business warehouse as well with IDM. You can do some integration there, and then all the data is extracted from IDM to BW, and then you can get the BW developers to do the customization reports there, put that information in business objects, and whatever you feel like in terms of the reporting, right? So your identity head would want certain reports on how many users there are in the environment, etc. And then with the latest, some of the latest tools SAP is offering with the SAP Lumira, you can actually do some reporting using IDM as well. Okay, so you can do you can connect to the SAP IDM database similar to what we're doing here. So we do the same in here, and then we do pull in all the information, then we start reporting on them. So some of the basic reporting, a determination of the system access, what access the user has, a particular user, what privileges, what technical roles they have, things like that, who approved what request, and then you can build, like that, all this into SQL, and also you can actually use, one of the companies I work for, basically they have customized reporting by doing PHP and also PHP SQL. So they had actually written custom reports, so which reports on the users. Okay, and then you can do some general logs of things, audit logs, etc. And this is the business warehouse, extended reporting of business warehouse. So you have your templates available, BW templates, where you can report on the users, their roles, and their underlying privileges. And then you can do that. To be honest, we we only had one client do this so far. So we have had several implementations, more than 12 implementations we've done in IDM. Only one client is using the BW reporting. Okay, because as you know, BW is not real time. You know, it's only whenever the extract comes to BW from IDM is that point. Like similar to ECC, it's a day-old data, right? And then you can do the BEX reports and AF4 reports. You can do some what is it? Some business objects as well with this. With the Lumira, you can do some funky graphically rich reports, basically by doing various different, you know, selecting various different filters and things like that in here. Any of you guys using Lumira or?
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay, so this is quite easy. I mean, like, you know, Abdul, you should have no problem in setting this up and, you know, start reporting on this. You know, if you have a license for Lumira.
So is it like business objects or a different module?
Yeah, it's a very easy desktop tool. So you don't need a server, nothing. You just download this onto your desktop. It's mainly focused at the business users, targeted at business users, where they can log in and then connect to the BW, you know, reports, and then report further on them. You know, with
okay,
they can choose
kind of reporting tool like web application designer or business object.
Yeah.
That's correct.
Okay, and if we don't have BI, so can we link this direct to like Fury and view the reports in graphical form?
Yeah, you can do that. And we'll look at it a bit later. But Fiori,
Okay.
I don't know why you would use Fiori to report. You know.
No, it's not a, I mean, because the screens appears as according to my customization or my requirements. So I do the customization and a screen appears in a kind of graphical view. It's not actual graphical, but still there will be the view seems to
Yeah.
be.
Yeah, you can definitely do it. I mean, it all depends on whether you want to use data directly from IDM or you want to save it somewhere else and use it. You know, so
So
multiple.
directly to access the data from IDM and see the way what we.
Yes, correct. Yeah, but you can't use the Lumira data in Fiori then. You know, so you have to use the direct data from IDM.
Okay. Yep. That's fine. So I'll not
Okay,
go for any BW stuff.
Yeah.
So I directly.
Right. So.
Lumira.
Yeah. So.
Okay.
So then we have the password management side of things. So user loses their password, so forgets their passwords. Then basically they will go into a link, forgot my passwords, answer some secret questions, and that will, and then once they answer those secret questions correctly, they can set a new password, which will be set in IDM, and which is then provisioned to the underlying systems. Okay, all underlying systems there. And this should be the standard practice. So they reset not just one password, but all systems. Because sometimes they say, you know what, I forgot my BW password. Then you reset the BW password, which is out of sync with their ERP password. So, you know, it's then they got different passwords for different. So with this, they have to update all passwords. IDM will update all passwords. Okay, this is very important.
I want to reset my, sorry here,
Yeah.
I have a question.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah. If I want to reset my password only in one system, so can we do it or IDM will reset for all at a time?
Okay, so the standard is IDM will reset in one system, in all systems. However, if you want to reset a password on only one system, then you'll have to you have to basically customize those tasks where you can actually reset a specific specific system at a time. Okay, so if you forgot your BW password, you go into this process, you select the system, then you can reset the BW system. And this is actually available in the RDS. I'm not sure, Abdul, you came across this one. Okay, so it should be there.
I saw that particular repository we can select and reset the password. It's there in IDM, RDS.
Yes, correct. And I think the SAP is yeah, it is a standard in RDS, but not available in the standard version of SAP IDM. Okay, but the rumor is that they are going to make it available as a part of IDM as well, the standard IDM, so that this option is available natively, so the user can select the password and then and reset a specific system as opposed to
RDS. Is it IDM component or a different application?
Yeah, SAP IDM RDS is a rapid deployment solution, right? So it's most of the things are already pre-configured, so you just install it and then do the connections and everything, and off you go. You're ready to roll with the database and everything else. But to be honest, and then it has some good features like this, resetting one system at a time, and some other functionality which is not there in the standard IDM. I'm not sure why that is.
The reporting is there.
Yeah, so that's an advantage of it. But I think, to be honest with you, I think the standard one you can actually configure all these things in the same same amount of time. If it takes to set up the RDS, it might take 3 to 5 days. You can actually, if you work efficiently, you can actually do this 3 to 5 days as well. Okay. So okay, guys, this is very important that you learn about this one, the solution in detail. So we're talking about the connectivity, right? So how we can integrate, what are the integration options available for IDM? So this is very important you learn about this. So the connectivity framework. So from a database point of view, okay, you can set up IDM on the SQL Server. Not so much on Access database, but you can integrate, you can read the data from Access and things like that. Obviously, Oracle DB2 and Sybase and HANA is fine. So Sybase, I'm not sure if you know, SAP acquired Sybase recently, and IDM 8 has some stored procedures specifically for Sybase, for tighter integration, okay, within IDM and the Sybase tool. So if you're considering any new implementations, considering Sybase as a database, consider it and see what are the advantages of disadvantages, what are the license costs. And
Manav, IDM 8 has got a lot of changes when compared to 7.2, right?
Yeah, I mean, like, they have changed the whole thing, and then we'll go through that as we go along in the course. Yes, it definitely has a lot more changes. It has a lot more control. Basically, if you go into 7.2 and then you change some configuration, no one knows who did it, right? Yeah. And IDM 8 is all tracked, and then if with the IDM 7.2, you have an application server, and the management console is in the application server. Right?
Yeah, so, correct. But we have this Eclipse and 8, I guess.
Yeah. So with the 7.2, only people who can access the management console would be the people who can access the application server, right? So with the 8, you can, whoever has Eclipse can, multiple people can log into this application console. So that's some of those good advantages there, and then I think they improved the provisioning framework and how the whole IDM hangs together. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's the database side of things. Some of the other things is the on-prem and cloud solutions. So obviously IDM provisions to the SAP Business Suite. So all your SAP systems, ABAP and Java systems, success factors. You got your SAP GRC integration. It provisions to the SAP, not SAP, Lotus Notes and things like that. It sets up your Exchange accounts, RSA, Claitas, and SecureID. So you can set all this up. From a technical integration point of view, these are all the possible things. Okay, so this is very important that you know all these things. So you got your SPML integration with IDM, LDAP integration, JDBC, ODBC, OLEDB, RFC, and then you got your files, LDIF, XML, and CSV. One of the biggest things which is not here is the REST API and the OData services. So you can actually integrate IDM with the REST API as well. So we have done this as well. So where we have actually integrated with another system where that system is sending information. So I'm not sure if you guys heard of ServiceNow. ServiceNow, have you guys heard? That's correct. So the user would request access in ServiceNow, then it will go through the approval process within ServiceNow, right? And once it's approved, ServiceNow will then send a request to a REST API request to IDM, and IDM will assign that access to the user, will provision that access to the underlying systems. Okay. Then you have your basically, some of the other things. You can write a custom Java adapter, which I showed you about. Script-based API. This can be this is you can set this up in the Windows server environment or Linux or Unix environment. Some of the directory services are this, so you can integrate it with the Active Directory, Tivoli, a Novel E directory, Sun Java directory, and all some of the other directory services as well.
Hello.
Okay, so this is very important that you get hold of. Yeah. So this is very important that you get hold of all these things. Okay. So and you get some third-party connectors as well, right? And then you can, I think it's called as IDM Works, and then basically you go into IDM Works, and then you have some specific connectors for, if you want to, for example, I don't know if you heard of RACF, like IDM mainframe. So IBM, like mainframe relevant systems, and then IDM actually can provision to those systems using the third-party connectors as well. Okay. All right, that comes to the end of the training, so you can follow more about this particular course at this particular website. And that's that. So we will take any questions now.
Yeah.